Hi, I'm Jodiann Schott, and I'm going to demonstrate on how to make my faith bracelet. Everywhere I go, almost every single day, somebody asks me, what am I wearing, and makes a comment on my beautiful faith bracelet. I created this bracelet because I needed some reminders that God can, He will, and He wants to. These buttons represent a positive thought for a negative situation that I'm believing a miracle from God, because God is still in the miracle business. So this bracelet right here that I constructed is really just a piece of elastic covered by fabric and then just buttons that caught my eye sewn to the elastic. For instance, this button right here is my elevator button. And when I look at it, it reminds me, don't miss out on the opportunities that God has for you just because they don't come how you expect them to come. To be open to God moving in your life beyond what you could even imagine or think. This other button right here is a little flower button, and this is to remind me to pray for my little grandchildren that are growing and flourishing in becoming godly children. And so this bracelet, when I look at it, I say to myself, God can, He will, He wants to. So I'm going to demonstrate how to make your bracelet. The most easiest way to do it is to just grab a piece of elastic, tie it around your wrist like this, measure the size you want, and then just snip it up. And I have taken the liberty to have my sewing machine all ready. And what we're going to do right here is just pull them together like that, stick them underneath your sewing machine, and then sew it together. I go back and forth because this is going to be the weakest part of your bracelet. Now, if you don't have a sewing machine, you can just hand stitch it with needle and thread. Just be really sure to go over it a whole bunch of times so that your bracelet doesn't come apart. So, once your bracelet's put together, this is a little crooked, but that's okay, then you want to start adding your buttons. So I have an assortment of buttons here. Just dig through your buttons and start putting together a pattern of what you want to think or believe for. So I found this button. It's a musical button. My daughter is a musician. She has a beautiful singing voice, and so I would sew this onto my bracelet, maybe right there, to remind me to pray for her. And then there's other buttons in here. There's different ones. With my bracelet right here, I found a button that has a little, looks like a dollar sign. So when I look at that, I thank God for His prosperity over my life and that He's going to bless me. So you can customize your bracelet any way to help you with your positive triggers. Now, if you want it to be a little bit more fancy, other than just using regular elastic, you can use white elastic, and then I'll move my buttons aside here. This is 3/4 of an inch elastic. It just comes in a regular package that you can get at any kind of craft store or fabric store. And this works out really well if you cut about 2 inches wide in your fabric. This is a piece of just spare fabric that I just pulled out of my cupboard here. And I'm going to make a little casing. So I'm going to turn it inside out and stitch it on the end of it until I've made a little casing. Then, after I've made the casing, I'm going to thread this elastic through the casing with this safety pin through. After I've made my casing, then I can turn around and attach it right here. Now this will be the ugliest part because you can actually see the thread. So normally I would use a thread that you wouldn't be able to see, but I'm using a dark thread so that you can pick it up as I stitch this together. So once I've laid one piece over the other, lower the needle and sew. And then, because I want it to be really strong, I'm going to back stitch and forward and back stitch, or you could use a zigzag stitch. But the idea is just to make it be really strong And don't worry about how it looks, because that will be your very first button, and your first button, you'll just sew over it and it'll cover it. Here, some thread right here. While I'm sewing this, I'm going to tell you about this little white button that I'm going to sew onto my bracelet. I happened to be down in Mexico looking after Nana's house. Very busy time, worked hard, didn't get a chance to enjoy the beautiful Mexico coastline. But just before our plane trip, I ran to the beach, rolled up my pant legs, took off my pumps, went to the edge of the water, and actually was just praying to God and asking Him to bless Nana's house and bless our family, and just kind of just having some time with God. And I looked down onto the surf, into the wet sand, and I saw this button. Now, isn't that amazing that you would find a button at a beach? There's a lot of things you can find at a beach, but I found this little white button. I picked it up and I brought it home, and I decided that that was going to be my button that reminds me that when it's not supposed to happen, it can happen. You see, we don't expect to see buttons at the beach. We expect to see other things, but that's the God we serve. Sarah didn't expect to have a baby. She was in her 90s. And it was impossible, physiologically absolutely impossible, and yet God did it anyway. It was impossible for animals to walk to Noah's Ark, and yet they did it anyway. And in the same way, this is going to be my reminder. We serve a God that when it shouldn't happen, it can still happen, because God can, He will, and He wants to. I want to quote to you Psalms 20. May the Lord answer you when you are in distress. May the name of the God of Jacob protect you. May you receive help from the sanctuary and support from Zion. May He receive all of your sacrifices and accept your burnt offerings. May He give you the desires of your heart and all your plans succeed. May we shout for joy over your victory and raise our banners in the name of the Lord our God. May He grant your requests. Now this I know, that God rescues His anointed and answers him from His heavenly sanctuary with His powerful, victorious right arm. Some trust in horses and some trust in chariots, but I will trust in the name of the Lord my God. Good luck with your faith bracelet.